Wife had emotional and maybe physical affair for 8 to 12 months with a subordinate, and she even co-wrote book with AP about me being offed.
Welcome to Storly. For more wild stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button.
Hey all, no clue how to process all of this, and I know it's a tome. Hang in there if you can. It's been 2 months since D-Day, and my wife and I opted to attempt to restore our marriage. Background is, we have been married for over a decade and have a disabled 4-year-old child together. We have had ups and downs in our marriage, including a 4-month separation in 2016 that was caused by life becoming absolutely crazy for both of us from a career school perspective. I was not the easiest husband to deal with early in our marriage, but worked on my issues and always agreed to counseling and participated thoughtfully and intently whenever we engaged with therapists. I held myself accountable for my actions and was held accountable by counselors, so I always worked whenever problems were presented. I discovered her infidelity in early March via a text message notification displaying on her phone from the AP saying, "I love you back." The word back means my wife said she loved him, so imagine my evening as I was out with friends, as I toiled with what that could possibly mean. I looked the guy up and realized it was one of her subordinates at work. When I got home early in the AM, I steeled myself to check her phone, and sure enough, it was ugly. Texted professions of love and of incredible feelings for one another. Each said they were fighting their feelings so very hard. Let's rewind to February of 2022. My wife came up to me during the beginning of my work day, on my work from home day, and said she had something important to talk to me about. I said okay, and then she just blurted out that she was considering a divorce. This was a shock to me, but I listened over the course of the next 2 hours, as I was supposed to be working from home, go into a lengthy list of 5 non-negotiables and 15 other very important points to her that I needed to work on. This was a tough pill to swallow, but I tried to do so gracefully while also being blindsided by the divorce talk. After that meeting, I spent the next year or so hammering out that list like it was the most important thing in my life, which it was. So imagine my surprise in early March of 2023 when I discovered the text from the soon-to-be discovered affair partner. What I have found since is that my wife had already given up on the marriage by the time she gave me her list. She didn't say so, but after talking with her now, that is absolutely the case, and she did not tell me. So I received a list, and she never followed up on it, and only complained to me that I did not complete one of the 20 items on the list. This all makes sense after discovering the affair, which she began that very same month. She started talking about wanting a divorce. She began telling all of her work buddies, bosses, affiliates, subordinates, that she and I were doing poorly and that divorce was on the table. My therapist says that she was looking for allies for divorce at that point, and then she happened upon someone else who was not only an ally for divorce, but an ally for an affair as well, her subordinate. It's important to note that my wife predominantly works from home due to the virus restrictions. She wasn't hanging out with this guy for 40 to 50 hours a week. They were constantly in contact via Zoom, but they didn't re-engage in person until July of 2022, when they had a lunch date. That was apparently where and when my wife began to realize she had feelings for the guy. He and she were already discussing and dissing their significant others for our various perceived maladies at that point, and each was asking questions about the other's relationship. They soon began to share intimate secrets with each other that neither of their real relationship partners knew, and when their company brought them back to the work site for 1 day per week in August of 2022, they became inseparable, according to my wife. They went out for breaks together, went to lunch together, walked to their cars together, and they got cubicles right next to one another. My wife officially left her job at the outset of February, allegedly because she wanted to concentrate on our family, is what she told me. That is the very day that she told her subordinate that she loved him and that he reciprocated the advance. They spent the next 5 weeks intensely texting, calling one another, emailing, and even going on at least 1 date. I am not sure if I caught it before it became physical, but it is. possible I did. I have text and email evidence to suggest it did not necessarily become physical, but some of the details are so crazy that I still cannot believe it didn't. He was apparently looking for new apartments and was ready to leave his girlfriend of 7 years, according to my wife. Who does that, unless you've sealed the deal with a woman? On D-Day, I confronted my wife early in the morning after amassing enough evidence and memorializing it by taking photos and emailing myself from her phone. She began to lie about it at first, until I told her I had documented her correspondences, and then she started blaming me. Fun times. But I actually took it in stride, noted her difficulties, and simply kept going. She said that she couldn't go no contact with the guy because they were working on a creative project together. A book. I somehow managed the wherewithal to ask her if she could simply go no contact until we could meet with our marital therapist and let him make the assessment of contact permissions. And she agreed. I also told her she had to end things with the guy the next day and gave her the opportunity to call him. I regret not being there in the room for the call, as I have come to learn how much extra nonsense was shared at that time. She apparently spent the next 2 weeks in the affair valley, trying to figure out how to have both her husband and affair partner at the same time. Then I discovered the contents of the book they were writing together. My wife was co-authoring a novel with this guy about a woman who was having a love affair with a younger man. The AP was 28 and my wife is 43, and meanwhile her husband in the novel was murdered. There is even email proof where she states the husband is based on me exclusively, so I am sure this was a way for her to work out her twisted affair fantasies and have me removed from the situation via murder. This is the point where I flipped my crap. I began researching the guy and found his girlfriend. I reached out to her via an app and she responded and thanked me for letting her know. She noted she did not know about any of this and wanted to know more. I consulted my therapist while also telling my wife what I was doing, another big mistake, but it's hard to straddle that line when you believe you can share things with your wife and you really cannot, because she is a cheating, lying, vow-breaking, betraying shell of a human being. The woman turned out to be an incredibly nice individual and was heartbroken about her partner's infidelity. My wife was furious I had found her and reached out. My wife, who had apparently already gone behind my back numerous times since D-Day and still remained in contact with the AP, now reached out to the AP over both my demands as well as our marital therapist's instructions. But the AP told her to never contact him again, which was great. My contact of the AP's partner ended up severing the ties, at least for a little while. 5 weeks later, I found out from her that she broke up with him, and now he is in the wind. My wife slowly opened up over the last 8 weeks. It seems most truths were trickled out, and typically only if I forced her hand, like telling her I was going to take her phone and get an expert to extract all deleted texts. She has admitted to falling in love with the guy, and that the emotional affair spanned 8+ months, but she is begging me for reconciliation at this point. We have seemingly made a lot of progress over the past 2 months since D-Day, but it's still horrible for me emotionally and physically. I have physical manifestations of the PTSD of betrayal trauma, including hand tremors, anxiety attacks, depressive periods where I cannot focus on anything, including simple tasks. One of the more difficult realizations has been that my wife's massively increased drive during February was due to her wanting to bang this guy, but only having me, her husband, as a consolation prize while she waited for him to make a move. My wife swears up and down that it was not physical, even though she has lied about nearly everything until I have found actual proof to dispute her. And that brings us to her current hospital stay. My wife has had a history of bowel obstructions, 2 of which caused hospitalization. It was always reconciled naturally within 2-3 days of hospital admission, but nonetheless, it's still a big deal. Well, on Tuesday of last week, she began having acute symptoms of another obstruction episode, and I took her to the hospital. Upon performing entry-level blood work, they found out she was pregnant. We have never been able to get pregnant together despite a lengthy history of attempts. Our son was the result of fertility treatment, but we have never naturally conceived to our knowledge. So in the midst of this horrible situation of my wife having a bowel obstruction, we now find out she is pregnant, which precludes a number of treatment options for her condition. She eventually had to have surgery and to have a part of her small intestine resected. Meanwhile, my family and close friends, who are all privy to the affair, are asking me if the child is even mine. And I have no idea, but what I do know is that my wife and I are Christian, and she has always opposed abortions. I let her know I was questioning who the father of the child was, and now she is talking about wanting to terminate the child to everyone who will listen. It's crazy, and how am I supposed to feel about any of this?
Thank you for staying till the end. Share your thoughts with us in the comments. Also hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to get new wild stories every day. See you on the next one.